Alright guys, welcome back. This is a video that's going to show you some key things that you should know about if you are interested in playing Mists of Pandaria, re-exploring Mists of Pandaria. The classic version is coming out next month, pretty soon. So if you've never played this version of the game back in the day, like 13 years ago, and you just want to explore some stuff, these are some things you should know, because I know a lot of people who are interested in playing this game are coming from retail and they've really never touched it before. They've heard about good things about this expansion, and I'm guessing that's why they want to come play it. But there's some stuff that's really different in retail that you guys should know about before you even step foot in Mists of Pandaria Classic. So yes, here are some things that you should know about. Before we do that, please like and comment, subscribe. I know it's been a little bit since I made a video. Things have been busy and the servers have been completely crazy in the beta. So yeah. Yep, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and let's get to it. The first one you should know about are your talents. Yes, the talents in Mists of Pandaria Classic are completely different than retail. This is the first time Blizzard actually revamped the entire talent system from Cataclysm all the way up to what it is in Mists of Pandaria, and then what you see today in live, which is retail, with all the the class spec tree, the class and spec tree, and the hero talents. Obviously, we don't have the hero talents in Mists of Pandaria beta. What you have, however, is your class tree that spans all 3 specs, or however many specs that your class has. One tree for every spec, so that's all you have. Now, so instead of getting like one point that you can spend every level, in Mists of Pandaria back in the day, you had to spend 1 point every 15 levels. Now, these talents are still pretty strong, don't get me wrong, and I'm using my Hunter as an example here. Don't pick Barrage, it's just for fun. Yeah, and they are not free to actually change. You actually have to have a reagent called Tome of the Clear Minds if you're max level, or Vanishing Powder, which if you're just leveling. So you can usually just buy these things from a vendor over here. So the Tome of Clear Minds, they're pretty cheap, and Vanishing Powders over here. Either your reagent vendor or scribes can make it too, like the Profession. So they're pretty inexpensive, but yeah. Also, another thing that I gotta point out are the glyphs. So your glyphs are pretty much your hero talents, quote unquote. Very, very low-key hero talents, I guess, if you want to call them that, because they do impact your class depending on which class or spec you are playing. Some of these hero talents are pretty game-changing, I guess, in a way. So make sure you are looking at your guides, or just look up stuff from back in the day, just to make sure you are paying attention to what it is that people are playing or what they're playing now. This is the 5.4 version of the patch that Mists of Pandaria is going to be launching at, and with some revisions. I think Blizzard posted a huge blue post about this. I'll link in the description below. So yeah, so that's the first key thing that you should note. First one. All right, so for thing number 2. The second thing you should pay attention to, the key thing that you should pay attention to when you log into Mists of Pandaria Classic, is your stats. Some of your stats are coming back, or some stats you've just never seen before. You've never played this version of WoW. Or your hit, your expertise, your spirit if you are playing a healer, and your PvP power. And I'm just gonna go ahead and get PvP power out the way because it's pretty easy. It's essentially just versatility for PvP only. So you'll find this stat only in PvP gear, and increases your damage and healing done in PvP. Outside of PvP, completely worthless. You don't want it anywhere in PvE. So, pretty easy. Alright, and then the next one is your spirit. If you're playing a DPS class and you only want to play DPS, you don't even have to worry about this stat whatsoever. So this is a healing stat. It increases your mana regeneration in combat by a set amount of spirit you have if you're a healer. Now, you can also, I mean, if you're a class that uses mana, like Arcane Mage or just Warlocks and Mages, and you don't like your mana being down, the spirit's probably not even going to be mana. I mean, you still don't want spirit. So, I mean, Warlocks have life tap, so spirit is completely worthless for DPS. I don't remember anything back in the day that requires DPS to ever have spirit in your gear, unless you're dual specking. So, but that's another story. All right, your hidden expertise. This is your stats that make it so you don't miss your target, especially boss targets. You see how low my hidden expertise is right now? And you see my dodge and parry chance for the bosses. If you see this table over here, if you have this low of an expertise with your starter gear, and you go into the dungeon or raid and you hit a raid boss or a dungeon boss, this is not good. You do not ever want your spells to ever miss. If your spells are missing, you're doing no damage. This is worthless. You might as well not be in there. So just keep in mind your hit and the expertise are your most important stats. I believe there's a cap to these. I think it's 15% or 7% for melee and range, respectively. and their expertise is somewhere around like the I think having flip flop. I'll pull a table out and just let you know what they are from back in the day. They're more likely going to stay the same. So you want these to be capped at a level to where you do not miss your bosses. For PvP, this is completely worthless. You don't need it. But if you're doing PvE, you absolutely have to make sure your hit and expertise are capped to the point where you do not miss your where you always hit your target, and you do not have they don't have a chance to parry or dodge your attacks. Okay. Another thing associated with this is, oh well, I got disconnected. Okay, so the servers are pretty unstable. They have been unstable for 3 to 4 days on the beta, so I have to make this quick. Alright, so following up with the stats is your Reforger. This is actually back, and it's also in your Grand Expedition Yak, but you can't transfer that over to the beta servers. I mean to the classic servers. You're gonna have to buy a new one. So Arcane Reforger is back. It's where you'll find all the transmog vendors and everything like that. So essentially, what this is, if you haven't seen this before, is a return from Cataclysm. The Reforger will reforge whatever it is in your gear that you don't want. For example, if you don't want crit and instead you want maybe some expertise so your stuff don't miss, you can just do it over here on the Reforge vendor. They don't cost it very much. They just only cost like amount of gold. There's no currency. You have to go grind for this. So it's pretty useful. And you can pretty much do this for any piece of gear that has stats on it. Wonder why that's not on live, but hey, this is something I just wish would come back for live. Alright, so for number 3, the thing that you need to know for Mists of Pandaria Classic is no Great Vault. Nothing at all. You do not have it. Great Vaults did not exist back then. You actually instead have something called bonus rolls. And bonus rolls are exactly what they are. For Phase 1 of Mists of Pandaria Classic, or if you want to call it a Phase 1, back then it was just major patches. Every major patch changes the currency for Elder Charms or bonus rolls. And for Phase 1, it's Elder Charms. You get 3 of these a week. You can only do them 1 time a week, and you get them from getting lesser charms. 50 of them. It was 90, so Blizzard nerfed it a little bit. So 50 lesser charms. You get lesser charms for pretty much doing anything. Kill dungeon bosses, kill dungeon mobs, or anything out in the open, rares. You loot treasure boxes out in the wild and stuff like that. And then you come back here and you get Elder Charms to Good Fortune. Now what this does is every time you kill a boss in either a dungeon or a raid, so let's say you want a piece of loot from Zin the Weapon Master and you want Ghost Heart. Now, what bonus loot that lets you do is, well, it's also corresponding with difficulty. So if you definitely want to use this on, the highest level that you can. But let's say you want Ghost Heart from Zin the Weapon Master in Mogursham Palace and it doesn't drop for you when you kill the boss. Bonus roll lets you re-roll it. So it'll have like a box on the bottom of your screen that lets you use one of your charms to re-roll the loot table for that boss, and hopefully you either get gold or a piece of gear from the loot table that you're trying to get your boss on. But it's only usable on that boss on that difficulty. Well, actually, that boss on all difficulties on dungeons and your raids. So you get 3 of these that you can use each week. Like I said, you don't have Great Vault, so you either have to get lucky with your bonus rolls or not at all. You can get 3 gold rolls or 3 tier rolls. Well, 3 gear rolls. You can also use this on world bosses as well. So just be lucky, I guess. But yeah, that's number 3. That's number 3 that you should know about. All right, so for thing number 4, this is going to be really short and sweet. You cannot actually freely change your specialization if you don't pick a dual specialization. So essentially what this is if you pick a class that's pure damage, like for example, Rogue, Mage, Hunter, Warlock, all that kind of thing, you can only pick 2 specializations and you have to leave the last one like in the dust basically. So you can only just freely swap from, like, for example, me, I have the Demonology and Affliction on my Warlock. If I want to switch to Destruction when I already have my Affliction as my secondary specialization, you have to go to your class trainer, just pretty much wherever you can find one. And you have to tell them, hey, how do I reset my class specialization? Or do you want to reset my talents? And you can do this for free the first time. And then I think each time you do it, it costs a little bit more. So yeah, a little bit of a pain in the butt, but this is Mists of Pandaria. This was 12 years ago. This is how the game was back then. Okay, so for number 5, I think it's pretty obvious what we're going to talk about here. We're going to be talking about snapshotting and also another mechanic called Vengeance, but that one's a lot easier to explain. This is very, very important when you want to come into Mists of Pandaria Classic, because this was a system back then that was extremely, extremely impactful on classes that primarily dealt with damage over time. Particularly the very, very overpowered Affliction Warlock that benefited from this so much that Blizzard had to nerf the crap out of it in 5.4. And even then, it was still doing super good. You'll see what I mean. I'll show you a video of what I mean. Now, on live, we did not have snapshotting. Snapshotting on live is completely eradicated. All your dots are dynamically... it's dynamic, basically. Your damage on all your dots and all, like, anything that does, you know, bleeds and stuff like that, they read what you have on... They read all your buffs at the current moment and then apply to what your dot will do next. This wasn't the case in Mists of Pandaria. Snapshotting in Mists of Pandaria works like this. So, as you can see, I'm going to compare these two. On live, if for example, corruption. You put a corruption that does 100 damage on a target. On live, if you have no buffs, it'll continue to do 100 damage until that thing expires or is reapplied. And on live right here, if you buff it, you put a potion or trinket on it, and it, let's say, increases its damage by like 50. So you have 250 damage for the remaining duration. But on live, if any of those effects expires, say your trinket or your buff expires, and then you have your potion remaining, your dot will dynamically adapt to what you have active, and for the remaining time, let's say 5 seconds, it'll dynamically shift to do 150 damage. So your damage will go down based on what buffs you have active at the current point. Now, that's not the case in Mists of Pandaria. In Mists of Pandaria, snapshotting was rampant. Like I said, this is why Affliction Warlocks were insane. In Mists of Pandaria, if you have no buffs on your target, it's going to continue to do that amount of damage until you put something on there. So, if, like, for example, if you do the same thing like you did in life, you buff your corruption and it increases it to 250 damage. Now, if everything expires in Mists of Pandaria, nothing changes. Your entire dot will still do that same amount of max damage that you can put on it until the effect is either renewed or expires. Now, this was so insane for Affliction Warlocks because one spell called Soul Swap. Now, what Soul Swap is this thing. If you can see what it does, you copy your damage over time effects on your target. So if you put a line of dots on this training dummy, like right here, and then you use Soul Swap, like you fully buff it. If you use Soul Swap, you can copy everything, all the buffs on your dots to another target. And then you can keep copying that to another target, and then copy that to another target. And all its duration and all its buffs will do its maximum damage. Even after the trinkets expires, your buff expires, your potion expires, it doesn't matter. It will still do especially with Bloodlust stuff, everything is going to do max damage. And I will show you on your screen, a warlock named Sparkugs has a video of it naked in LFR on Protectors of the Protectors boss in Siege of Orgrimmar, where he did like millions of damage, like 90% more damage than everybody else put together in that raid combined. It is wild. So I'm really glad this is coming back, but unfortunately it is a nerf version of it. So make sure you keep this in mind. Snapshotting is a thing back then, and it still will be when Mists of Pandaria Classic comes back. So it will affect how you see other classes. It will affect other classes that also deals with bleeds. Obviously, no one's going to be as strong as you if you're playing Affliction Warlock, but again, this is the nerf version, and it's still going to be pretty good. So Shadow Priest, one of the classes that deals with dots. Feral Druid, another class that deals with dots. So keep that in mind when you come in and play this. Alright, so next up we have Vengeance. Now, unlike Snapshotting, Vengeance is a default ability. It's actually an ability, whereas Snapshotting was just a mechanic. Now, Vengeance is default for all tanks in Mists of Pandaria. And basically what it is when you take damage, you do more damage. As you can see in this clip that I'm going to show you. By the way, Trekkie is, well, he was the tank for Method back in the day. Back in Mists of Pandaria, and yeah, I mean, look at this damage. It's completely insane. I mean, he's a tank. Yeah, I don't think I need any more explanation for what Vengeance does. It's also the reason why a lot of people played a tank back in Mists of Pandaria. Now, there is a caveat to this. For Demonology Warlocks that have the Dark Apotheosis glyph, you don't have Vengeance. So technically, it's not really a tank spec, but you can tank as a Demonology Warlock. However, you got to keep in mind you don't have Vengeance when you play that meme spec, I guess is what you call it. But if you do play a tank in Mists of Pandaria, this is one thing you absolutely got to know. So the more you get hit, the more damage you deal, and that's probably why, from what you're seeing, it's, you know, from what you're seeing from Trekkie, and he's doing like 8,000% more damage than everybody else. That's because he was focused pretty much the entire fight. Alright, so for the thing number 6, we're going to be looking at gearing. So gearing here is a little tricky. We are at the Valor and Justice Quartermaster. It's a little different from Okay, so gearing in Mists of Pandaria is a little bit different than what we have in live. You actually have Justice and Valor points. So Justice points are earned from doing dungeons, like heroic dungeons and stuff like that, and scenarios. And you can buy these 458s, and they're a little bit below heroic dungeon item level. So yeah, these are like pre-heroic dungeons. Like as soon as you hit max level, you hit level 890. You just farm like normal dungeons. You get your justice points, and then you just buy these things over here. They don't really do much, but they're just filling gear until you can actually hit like heroic dungeons. Since Mythic Plus is not a thing in Mists of Pandaria, and also the Valor point, the Valor point vendor over here. Now Valor points are earned from heroic dungeons, and also from the raids. So normal and heroic raid drop Valor points along with heroic dungeons, and you can buy like 489 epics, which is the same item level as Mogushan Vault normal mode, a 10 man or a 25 man. Also, yeah, there's no mythic raid until Siege of Orgrimmar. Just so you know. Okay, and these are the ones that you can buy, and they do require you to be at least revered, or some of them even honored with some of these reputations. That's just a grind that just takes place over time. All right, and one thing I wanted to actually point out, really important, as far as gearing is concerned, is your tier. Now, tier is role specific in Mists of Pandaria, as in what I mean by that is, as you can see, I'm a tank right now on my warrior. There is separate tier sets for tank, healer, and DPS. So when it comes to wanting to dual role or triple role, you want to do like all three. You want to play a different spec, or you want to try healing when you're tanking. You want to try DPS. Well, unfortunately for you, I've got bad news. It's not. Your gear is not going to dynamically change based on the spec you are. You have to buy a separate set, especially like. Well, I'll put it this way: if you want to get good at tanking and you want to get the heroic version of the tanking, which is the highest level you can get, well, you better get lucky, or you better be buying boosts or something like that. Because if you're trying to do it as a DPS to get into tanking, yeah, you're gonna have a hard time. So this is just how it was back then. So Mists of Pandaria was a different Mists of Pandaria all the way up to I think Warlords of Draenor, until the Mythic Plus stuff came in Legion. This is just how gearing was. So be lucky if you want to do the dual roll or triple roll. Otherwise, probably best just to stick to your roll. Alright, so for the final thing I want to mention are the dungeons. Now, there are two types of dungeons. One is new, which we've never seen before. It's called Celestial Dungeons. That's a whole video and so on. Just wait till I put in here. Essentially, what they are is a replacement for LFR, because LFR is not in Mists of Pandaria Classic. Blizzard decided not to put that in here. And the other one is Challenge Mode Dungeons, which is going to be the thing that's coming back. So if you don't know what Challenge Mode Dungeons are, think of Mythic Plus Dungeons, and Challenge Modes are the precursor to that. So whatever Mythic Plus Dungeons are today, is Challenge Modes were responsible for making it how it is today. So they were the introduction to it. And as you can see, I am at the Challenge Mode Dungeon vendor. The prizes for these are pretty cool. Now, this is the hunter set that you can get whenever you do a challenge mode dungeon, and some of these cool, awesome Pandaren Phoenixes over here. This is the Crimson one, this is the Ashen one, and then this is the Emerald, and then the last one is Violet. Okay, so these are the mounts you can get for them. Now, I can only show you a video of it right now because, like I said, the servers are way too unstable for me to actually do a challenge mode dungeon. Everybody's gonna disconnect like every 15 seconds. If I'm lucky, I can even make it through this video without me getting DC'd. So they're not really possible right now. So what they are is, think of them as affixless Mythic Plus dungeons with a timer in them, and they're the same. The 2 chests, 3 chests. If you get a 3 chest on them, you get a gold medal. If you got a 2 chest, silver medal, and then 1 chest is bronze. And the only difference between that and a Mythic Plus dungeons is they don't scale the dungeons to another level. It scales you instead to an item level, which is, I believe it's 463. So whatever gear you have is going to get scaled up or down to 463. And if you finish all your dungeons on challenge mode, you can get these you can get the Phoenix the Phoenix mounts that I just showed you, or whatever class that you did it on that completed all these dungeons. You can get the classes for them, and I'll show you some of the classes over here. So this one's for the Druid, the Death Knight, the Druid, and then the Hunter, which I just showed you, the Mage, the Monk, the Paladin, the Priest, Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior. Now, and these are the rewards that I showed you before. So, and then you also have a title, The Undaunted. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. These are the key things that I just figured everybody would need to know. I know there are others that's like a, the class reworks or the pre-works, the Demonology Warlock, the Survival Hunter, the Combat Rogue. Those are pretty obvious from the get-go that they weren't going to be the current version of themselves in retail, so I didn't put them in here because I already showed 2 of them. Combat's not any different. Outlaw is pretty much just a reskin of it with pirate theme. That's basically what they are. It's just really a name rework. So yeah, stay tuned for the Celestial Dragons. I'm gonna do another video on that. Like I said, I have to make sure that the servers are stable. We need more information on that because it's still really new. But once all that's kind of flushed out, I'll make a video on it. But for now, just thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Make sure to like and subscribe, and goodbye.